and Maisha Baton. Maisha will read some things.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I thought I'd read 3, maybe 4 poems. Once again, trying to look at some of the contemporary issues and some of the injustice that happens in this society that never gets addressed. Anyhow, this is called How Will I Sing? How will I sing in the ashes and rubble of my historic present? Troubled by old loves and new tears falling from ancient eyes, while whole days are dismembered by capitalism. Seeing brothers and sisters take from each other what no one has given them, while young girls shake that thing, shake that thing. How will my voice be heard in the churning of cities, in the echoes of heroes knocking at the doors of disappointment, living tall tales, but true, from bar stools of forgetfulness? Sad young men, shrinking, always shrinking away from love. Sad young women, mothers now in their soap opera days, pulling at the reins of children and crying 'cause Lisa, she's pregnant, and Rick don't know it's his, and Tracy's gone off with David, and nobody knows where she's at, not even Alex, and he's the one that left his wife for her. I ask you now, how will I sing in the fantastic journey of my terrible times, where whole dreams, whole cities are neglected by days, while marching the strong ones into deserts, as I walk the edges and mornings of coffee shops, meeting the old and the useless, wasting myself on flowers, and considering now and then suicide. I too have wanted at times for power. I ask you, how will I sing, frightened at times by cracking walls and closed rooms, pressed into submission by love hands and smiles, and needing biographically to be free. And no one has mentioned my name, and no one has asked me to sing. It's just a question I ask myself now and then. But sing I do anyhow, even despite the world. So this poem I wrote, it's called Maybe It's Fair and Maybe Not. And I wrote this poem, I got to tell you how I wrote it, because I wrote it because I was talking to this older woman, and she's a woman, she has like 12 kids or 13 kids, and life's been kind of hard for her. And so she's trying to, something happened, one of her kids, she's having problems, and I'm trying to be philosophic, and I'm saying, well, life will give you what you deserve, and you'll get, you know, we can. And she says, well, maybe it's fair and maybe not. So I wrote this poem. It's called Maybe It's Fair and Maybe Not. It's kind of what she was saying. Maybe what you say is true, that life is fair, but I don't know. Look like I should understand why some folks live all day with pain and some folks don't. Look like I could figure why some folks laugh and others cry. And some folks don't do nothing, but things keep coming to them. Maybe it's fair and maybe not, how sun don't shine in some folks' sky, and clouds don't never pass them by. And maybe you can answer why so many chocolate babies die. I know I shouldn't question so, but how come stock's so high and money low? I guess I ain't supposed to know. But one thing I seen all along, how some is where they don't belong, living off my father's land and thinking I don't understand. So that's Maybe It's Fair and Maybe Not. Thank you, audience. You do that. It's only 3 people, folks, but it sounds good. Oh, okay, I'm just kidding. Okay, now this is called Oscar Comes Through New Mexico from El Salvador. This is a guy I met, a friend I met. He was coming through Albuquerque from El Salvador. That's pretty simple. But we found we had some mutual stuff, even though he spoke very little English. And of course, I spoke very little Spanish, but humanness is universal, I guess. Okay, Oscar comes through New Mexico from El Salvador. It occurred to me the time to speak of El Salvador had come. To speak of Oscar passing through New Mexico, death threats barking at his heels, the dread of another summer chasing him through long alleys of America, through bloodied streets already rotting with the dreams of migrant farmers, mothers carrying their babies secretly in their bellies, papas always looking for trabajo, Oscar with his long fingers and dark eyes. All night we held each to the other, as if we could bridge the distance of language. Voy al norte, he whispered. His awful sadness pierced my bold armor. His losses were my losses. I am only an ethnic after all, a war baby 100 years after emancipation, still seeking freedom, still seeking trabajo. Oh, Oscar, El Salvador is no more your land than mine. The unmarked grave of your mother is now our mutual burden. Your flight, no different than the flight of my fathers. El Norte, they cried, and like yourself, disappeared into the background of America. And so I haven't seen him in a long time. I have no idea where he is. Now, I think in order to make sure we all have time that I'm going to read maybe one more.
All right.
Okay? Okay, one more. Okay. Okay, well, maybe two. Okay, this is called Outcry. This is for South Africa because, you know, it's funny, now that Mandela's been here, South Africa's gotten a boost, and it's suddenly people are saying, what is this thing called apartheid? I mean, you know, like it was just invented yesterday. But this is a struggle I've had for a long time trying to get the consciousness of people in this country aware of or to at least think on the terrible injustice that happens in a kind of system like South Africa. So I wrote this poem a few years back, but I think it still applies. It's called Outcry. In a fast falling sunset of a South African veld, I heard the voice of my future, reaching, pleading, give back her mother, the smile more precious to her than her tears. Feed her till her stomach will not ache. Let her father's faith release him from the tombs of South African justice. Release us, release us. In the blood-stained sun sinking over the plain, my future calls. Her frail body poised at the brink of freedom, her arms torn and mangled, the gaping hole in her shoulder spewing forth thick, dark tears of frustration, her face scarred and beautiful, her bowels torn. Release us, she cries. Now in the interminable days of summer, I reach for my future, wanting to pull it up from its falling position on the landscape. I cannot ignore the sobs that reach to me across continents, the faint moans that assail me at bus stops and haunt me into and out of Gimbel's, Kaufman's, Sears, where we, all of us, purchase the fruits of a blood labor. Release us, release yourself. The cries increase. I dance toward them. I race blindly through the streets, screaming and waving my arms. South Africa, South Africa, we have not forgotten. I approach the white folks. I approach the black folks. I approach the children. We have not forgotten. and some will not understand and curse me and wish me away from them. We have not forgotten. We have not forgotten. The sobbing subsides. I drink coffee in fast food restaurants and talk with the old white woman who had a son but lost track of him somewhere in Montana. I tell her how I have heard the voice of my future alive on a South African veld. She tells me how she went to Mexico once and had her picture taken with a wandering dance troupe. Mariachi, she called it. Oh, how I do cry. Oh, how I do cry. It is late in the evening. The sun works its bloody path across the sky. The men leave the streets and seek shelter under the awnings of skyscrapers. There is no shelter. There is no shelter, I scream and bang my head against the indifferent walls of the city, vomiting and cussing into the uncertainties of darkness. Oh, South Africa, South Africa, how shall I tell them of these things? My feet are crusted with my wanderings, my throat raw, my clothes stink and cling to me in crowds. The dwindling voice of my future burns itself into the flesh of my arms. My hands tremble, my eyes cry. Yet we have survived, you and me. And still in the lateness of evening, I sing your song into the last few shades of sanity left to us in the streets and alleys of America. Oh, South Africa, we have not forgotten. So that's mine. Okay, thank you. And the last poem I want to read, this is a general poem that I read because a lot of parents think that when they have a child, they own the child. And therefore, they live through that child just like, hey, I just had a baby, I got another life, I think I'll live that life, and I'll live my life. And so anybody who's ever been a parent or anybody who's ever been a child of a parent might relate to, this poem's called One Life for Each of Us, okay? Give your children back their borrowed lives you have lived in all these many years. Let them spend their love and longings in the market of their time. Let them waste their grown-up anger for no reason, for no rhyme. Return their childhood promises. Give back their youthful dreams. Let go the ties that bind them now ragged at the seams. A peer call in September, let them answer to the call. A love song of the highway, let them stumble, let them fall. Let your warriors choose their battles. Let your artists choose their pain. Let your martyrs choose their meanings. Give them back their lives again. Loose the bondage of your kisses and the judgment of your eyes. Free the caged bird from his longing. Give them back their borrowed lives. Thank you very much.